Some promises are made for the cameras. But some are made for the silence after they leave. It wasn't raining in Chicago that morning. The sky, instead, sat in silence, gray, unbroken, and watching. Barack Obama stood by the window of his Hyde Park home, coffee in hand, wearing the same gray sweater he wore during his final week in office. He never told anyone why he kept it. Maybe because it reminded him of that cold January day when the weight of a nation slid quietly off his shoulders, and the world expected him to stop carrying it. But some burdens don't wait for permission. The room was still. No Secret Service, no staff, no speech to give. Just the quiet hum of a news anchor's voice coming from the living room television. Breaking: White House to sign sweeping healthcare reform act during Independence Day weekend. Sources say bill exceeds 1,400 pages and is being fast-tracked for immediate effect. Obama didn't flinch. He didn't even look at the screen. He had already read the bill, twice. The documents had been sent anonymously. No return address, just a thumb drive in a plain envelope marked with a single word, read. Inside, a PDF. 1,428 pages of polished policy language laced with razor blades. Page 247, Medicaid restrictions. Page 611, cuts to veteran housing. Page 802, elimination of medical cost deductions for seniors. And nowhere, did the document reflect what the press release promised. Not a single mention of protections. Only removals. He had seen this before. The old trick. Say, reform, and sign, repeal. Say, freedom, and remove care. America had learned to applaud without asking what had just disappeared beneath the claps. He didn't reach for his phone. Not yet. Not until he heard the one voice that would pull him back in. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Her tone clipped through the newsfeed like a blade. They're not just rewriting healthcare. They're rewriting what it means to have a government that remembers its people. He turned then. Fully. The screen showed her standing in front of a projection of the bill's redacted pages. On one of them, a name had been circled in permanent marker, Natalie A. Rodriguez, Bronx, New York. Age, 26. They thought he was done because he gave up the mic. They forgot he still had the files. Barack Obama hadn't set foot in the West Wing in over 6 years. But there were rooms in America that still carried his fingerprints, unseen, but deeply felt. Some of them were policies. Some were people. And some were memories, stored in back channels, favor banks, and untraceable folders never erased, just archived. That was the office he still had. Not in a building, but in the minds of the people who remembered what real governance used to feel like. The phone call came exactly at 3:03 p.m. A burner line. No caller ID. But he answered anyway. "Mr. President," the voice said. It was Elizabeth Warren. Her tone was the opposite of public hearings, flat, sharp, fast. "We've got 72 hours before they sign a bill that liquidates Medicaid. AOC just confirmed the language. And there's more, our forensics flagged ghostwriting traces. The same language used in a private healthcare proposal from 2023. Obama closed his eyes. Not because he was surprised. But because he wasn't. Who wrote it? Warren paused. A hedge fund. Registered out of Delaware. Name matches with a PAC that used to fund Trump's COVID advisory team. We're still chasing ownership. He sighed, but not out of defeat. It was the inhale before motion. In Chicago, 3:22 p.m. Obama moved like a man who hadn't forgotten where the real battlegrounds were. He pulled out an old hard drive from his safe, a dusty black Seagate labeled only, Affordable Legacy. Plugging it in was like reviving a ghost. Folders bloomed onto the screen. ACA Loophole Briefings 2015. Medicaid Red Line Reports. State-level erosion models, GOP Playbook. He clicked open one titled, Failure Path, Trump Strategy.pdf. It was written in 2016. And it had predicted this exact move: bury healthcare rollbacks under celebratory noise, call it sovereignty, brand it with patriotism, and rush it through before scrutiny could catch up. The only thing the playbook hadn't calculated was that someone outside the Capitol might still be watching. He may have left the presidency, but he hadn't left the post. Not when the job wasn't done. And not when someone was trying to erase everything he ever built. In D.C., the next morning, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stood inside a press bay, silent, watching CNN's morning segment play the projected budget draft. The anchor read the numbers like they were abstract, surgical. But she saw the people behind every line. Her phone buzzed. One page. I marked what matters. B.O. Attached, a scanned page from the bill. Handwritten circles. One section underlined in red. Page 1147, State Medicaid funds may be withheld pending economic review compliance, not to exceed 18 months. Translation, coverage freeze. For anyone too sick, too poor, or too late to speak up. She blinked. Her heart raced. Obama hadn't just read it. He'd annotated it. Highlighted weaknesses. Predicted blowback points. Even proposed counter-amendments. She stared at the line again. Her hand hovered over her mic. Then, she picked up her phone and hit reply. What do we do next? No emoji. No sign-off. Just the question that echoed across a government that forgot how to ask. Back in Chicago, Obama stood at his window again, phone in hand. The sky hadn't changed. But his stance had. We make them read it. Line by line. Loud enough to reach the people it's about to hurt. He looked down at the letter still sitting on the desk. Natalie Rodriguez. Still smiling from that faded photograph. Because some laws are written for history. And some are written to be stopped. What if the most important action taken to stop a national betrayal was never meant to be seen? The morning after the bombshell press conference, the Capitol was no longer a building, it was a pressure chamber. Staffers whispered like conspirators. Phones buzzed with questions no one wanted to answer. And in a quiet office buried beneath layers of bureaucracy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was reading the bill, again. The ink hadn't changed. The clauses were still there, each one a scalpel. Section 1182, Repeal of Medicaid Provisions for Under 65s. Clause 9C, Automatic Transition to Private Programs Without Patient Consent. Page after page, a machine's efficiency written in legalese. She didn't need to read it again for content. She read it again because she needed to feel the pulse of the betrayal, needed to remind herself what silence might cost. But across the country, in a study paneled with dark oak and stillness, another figure had already acted. No one needed to know he was behind it. That's why it worked. Barack Obama sat alone at his desk in Chicago. The photo of Natalie Rodriguez, her four-taped arm raised in a victory sign, lay next to his laptop. His coffee had gone cold. His inbox overflowed with questions, most marked urgent. He ignored them all. What mattered now was not visibility. It was velocity. Obama had always understood optics. But he had also understood when to step out of the frame. Not every war needed a general on the field. Some needed a ghost in the network. And that's what he had become, an invisible signal traveling through encrypted lines, triggering levers still connected to hands that remembered him. He pulled up an interface no civilian had ever seen, an executive network designed during his presidency, meant to provide secure, untraceable communication between former administration members during national security crises. He had never used it, not even during the Trump years. Until now. A screen blinked alive. A passcode. A phrase. Begin Midnight Ledger. 10 seconds later, a quiet ping. Then a voice. Elizabeth Warren. She didn't ask why he'd called. She didn't need to. The only reason to activate Midnight Ledger was because the system had failed. "What do you need?" she asked, adjusting her glasses. "I need you to verify authorship," Obama replied. Warren's eyes narrowed. "You think the bill was ghostwritten?" "I don't think," he said. "I know. I just need you to prove it." He sent the packet, 1,428 pages, raw and unmarked. She didn't flinch. Within minutes, her laptop was running forensic linguistic software, algorithms used in fraud detection, deepfake identification, even espionage tracking. 22 minutes later, the results, an 89% match with a corporate Medicare optimization proposal. "This isn't legislation," she whispered. "It's a liquidation strategy." Meanwhile, back in Washington. The networks didn't report Obama's name. They didn't know. What they did know was that someone had leaked a memo. An internal document showing a timeline for the bill's passage and implementation, complete with the phrase, "independence from dependence." A phrase never spoken aloud. A phrase only seen by a handful of eyes. But now it was everywhere. Cable news anchors stumbled through the implications. Twitter exploded. Hashtags erupted. And through it all, Obama said nothing. He didn't tweet. He didn't appear on camera. He let the truth breathe on its own. "They're asking who leaked it," Warren texted. He responded with 2 words, "Let them." Back in the Bronx, AOC received another file, this time from a former intern named Daniel Vitari, now working quietly in the Congressional Budget Office. The file contained the same proposal Warren had matched, except it was labeled with an investor briefing watermark. Top-line goal: reduce government medical expenditure by $24.1 billion. Tactic: shift Medicaid patients to private carriers. Strategic window: July 4, low press visibility. It was no longer about policy. It was about premeditated harm. That night, AOC went live from her district office, not a news studio. The lighting was harsh. The sound raw. But her voice? Unshakable. Some legacies are not claimed. They are quietly carried by the people who refuse to let them die. Capitol Hill had known storms before, but this was different. July 3, 11:44 p.m. The Senate corridors pulsed with nervous movement, low voices, hurried steps, flickers of phones lighting up sweaty palms. Something unspoken had sunk into the bones of Washington. It wasn't scandal. It wasn't even guilt. It was exposure. The lie wasn't unraveling because someone shouted. It was unraveling because someone read. Barack Obama wasn't supposed to be part of this. Not directly. Not anymore. He had left the stage. Let history speak. Let others lead. But now, the past was knocking, hard. And the bill, that bill, was still alive. They tried to forget the reader. They didn't expect him to remember everything. Obama stood in the hearing room, not behind the desk this time, but beside it, silent, binder in hand, eyes locked on the future he had once tried to build. The chairwoman cleared her throat. "President Obama, you've requested 5 minutes." He nodded once. "I'll take 3. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The air shifted. "This bill," he began, tapping the binder gently, "wasn't designed to improve anything. It was designed to erase. Quietly. Efficiently. Permanently." He turned a page. Then another. Page 742, terminates Medicaid housing grants for veterans. Page 611, erases SNAP accessibility for disabled caregivers. Page 88, replaces the word guaranteed with reviewable. One word. Thousands of lives. He looked up, not at the senators, but at the staffers behind them. Young faces. Nervous faces. The people who would inherit the rubble. None of you are required to agree with me. You're required to read. A hush swept through the room, deeper than silence. Obama continued, slower now. This chamber is where policy becomes pain. Where budgets become hospital charts. You can sign a page here and cause a family, 2 states away, to lose insulin by Friday. That's not theory. That's real. And if you can't see it, that's not politics, it's abandonment. He closed the binder. I didn't come back for a fight. I came back to remind you that these papers have fingerprints. Every clause. Every comma. They carry the weight of someone's child, someone's last appointment, someone's only hope. And then, the moment that would live in headlines, in history books, in a generation's memory. He stepped back from the mic, lifted the binder over his head, and placed it on the table, like a coffin, marked and full of names. Not one senator spoke. Meanwhile, across the country. In Ohio, Carl Bridges, the veteran from the porch, watched the live stream, tears catching in the corners of his eyes. I served under Reagan. But I never seen a president fight like that, after he left. At Wyckoff Heights Medical Center in Brooklyn, Maria Castillo watched on a nurse's tablet, her 4 glowing faintly in the dark. Tell him, she whispered, we heard him. And somewhere in Boston, in a data center still pulsing with red digital warnings, Elizabeth Warren forwarded her final report.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that move the world. Thanks for watching.